begin with the third topic of our section 2, that is the 5 guiding principles of lean. So lean, if you think about lean, it was born out of the manufacturing practices, but recently it has transformed the world of knowledge work and management, and you can apply lean to any activity or any process or any kind of business. It's I have already told you, you can apply it to hospitality, manufacturing, to office spaces, anywhere, right? So based on the practice of continuous improvement and fundamental idea of respect for people, we get 5 core guiding principles of lean, and these were first mentioned in the book which I named earlier, written by James Womack and Jones, and they gave us these 5 principles. So they gave them in The Machine That Changed the World, and defined 5 principles which are considered a recipe for improving workplace efficiency, right? So this is the gist of all the 5 principles, then we will take each one in detail. So first principle they state is value, that is specified value from the perspective of the customer, that what does your customer consider as a value, right? So then move after value, the second principle is value stream. Value stream is a very important integral part of lean. So in value stream you characterize the value stream, that is you characterize what are the set of activities for each product process, and then you also remove waste, because each step is clear to you, then you identify what is non-value added activities and then you try to remove them. After value stream, you have the third principle is flow. Basically lean tries to make processes so that there are no bottlenecks, there are no stoppages, right? So progressive achievement of value creating steps with minimum queues, no stoppages or backflows, products of information, products or services, that is a smooth flow where there is no stoppage, no defects, no waste. After flow, the fourth principle is that of pull. So basically it's a system in which nothing is produced by supplier until customer signals the need for it, right? So this is the pull system. And as flow, pull is also a very integral part of lean, and then after pull we go for pursuit for perfection. This is the fifth principle, that is always compete against perfection, not just your current competition. So these are actually the 5 basic principles or the core lean principles, these which guide lean. And as you can see, I have shown them in a circle with arrows because it is based on continuous improvement. Both lean and Six Sigma are based on the principles of continuous improvement. So it's a never ending cycle, okay? So coming to the first one, that is defining value. Now here I will just give you some information that how you can actually define value, understand what is value from the perspective of the customer. So first we need to understand what value is. As I have already told you, value is something for which your customer is ready to pay, right? So for this you need to discover the actual or the latent needs of the customer. So to find out what is valuable to the customer, you have to find out what are the actual and the hidden needs. Sometimes the customers also don't know, or they are not able to tell them, they are not able to articulate those needs. So sometimes customers are unable to articulate their needs, especially when the product or technology is new, because they feel something is missing, something is not valuable, but they are not able to define it. So there are techniques such as interviews, surveys, demographic information, web analytics to help you decipher what provides value to the customer. So these techniques are used to understand that what actually provides the value to the customer, such as what they want, how they want it delivered, and the price they can afford for that particular product, right? So lean teams constantly review their product and service from the eyes of the customer. So whenever I talk about Six Sigma or lean, so I've already told you that whatever is your product and service is made out of what is required by the customer. You have to see your product from the perspective of the customer, because actually it is for them. They are going to use it. By the customer I mean the end customer, and they are actually the people who are paying for it. Then lean teams review how products help the customer do his job or improve his position. That is, we try to understand that how the product is being used by the customer, for what purpose, and does it actually solve that purpose. This helps them determine the unique value their product and service provides. So when you try to understand your product from the perspective of the customer, then you actually find out that whether it's giving value to them. Think of something that you are just making or you are trying to provide the service for. Think that whether you are going to avail it, and if you are going to avail it, how you are going to use it, then you will understand the perspective of your customer. For this, we have few guiding questions. There are ideally 4 questions which lean teams ask to find out how to define value. So these questions are: what does our customer need? So basically the first question is, what does our customer need? Second is, why and when do they need it? So that this will help you understand it, why do they need it and what is the time that is required. Fine. And then what are we providing that fulfill that needs? Does our product or service has that feature which will fulfill the need? And then last, how and when we are getting it to them. That is, how we are providing that service or that product to our customer. So these questions help us define value of our product and service. After the team defines value, so the next principle is to map the value stream. So basically, once you identify what is value, basically what you are making, why you are making and for whom you are doing that, your team can evaluate the process that leads towards the end goal, right? So value stream mapping basically enables lead teams to understand how value flows through the organization and more importantly where it gets stuck, so that they can eliminate those steps, right? So the product of value stream mapping is a physical map of an organization which outlines every step of the process for each part of the business, right? So you can create value stream mapping for all your processes, whether it's HR department, whether it's research and development department, whether it's production. So you can create the value stream maps for each process, each department, at how do they do work and what are the various steps that are included. So in short, the goal is to use customer value as reference point and identify the activities that contribute to value. Activities that do not add value and to the end customer, that is the person who is going to buy your product, are called waste. Now when we talk in lean terms, so waste is of 2 kinds. One is totally non-value added work that is completely unnecessary, a total waste. Then the second one is business value added, that is non-value added activities but necessary. If I have to explain that, if your machinery breaks down or there is defective production, so that's completely a non-value added activity, that's unnecessary, that's waste, that should be completely eliminated. But now if I have to give you an example of business value added activity, so that would be inspection. Now inspection is something which is very important, but if you ask your customer if they are ready to pay for inspection, they will say no, because what they want is a final product which should be working. So they are not concerned whether it's inspected or not, so they are not going to pay for it, but businesses have to pay for it. So there are many kind of activities which we call put under the category of business value added activities. So we have to try that we have to completely eliminate the non-value added activities which are unnecessary, and we have to reduce, or we have to see how we can fix or we can lessen the amount of business value added activities, right? So thus, by reducing unnecessary processes or steps, you ensure that customers are getting exactly what they want, while at the same time when you do that, you are reducing the cost of producing that product or service. So here I have just given you a vague idea of what a process looks like. This is the total lead time, that is the time which a process or service takes, right. So if you see the shaded area, these are all value added activities, and the ones which are not shaded, these gaps are non-value added activities. Now here I haven't differentiated which are necessary and which are unnecessary, but what you can see is that if we are able to reduce these gaps, so our total lead time will shorten, we will produce products and services without any blockages. So what value stream does is it helps us to identify where the blockages are, where the waiting time is, where defects are, so that we can remove those and create the products and services which are of value and which contain most part of value added activities. So if I have to give you an example of what kind of questions team ask when they create a value stream map. So think the example is of a company which produces child size tables for classrooms, right. So your work with team will be to identify every step it takes to go from a stack of raw materials to a finished ready table to be used in a classroom. So I have divided this example so that you can understand into three parts. First is how you are going to procure your raw materials, then how the production process will go, and finally how your sales and customer service will go. Okay. So when we talk about getting the raw materials, the questions you need to ask are, where does wood go when it is delivered by the supplier? After you get the answer for this, or you design the process, or you just place it in the value stream map, then you ask what happens next to this wood. Does it come to factory pre-cut? This means your supplier is providing the pre-cut wood that you just need to fix just with glues and nails and all that. If not, what are the specifications and who will cut it, right? So from here, then you will ask questions from where we will get the wood glue, nails and the finishing seal. So this is about how you are going to get your raw materials for making the table, fine. Then comes the production process. So you need to ask, where do we keep the tools needed and what kind of space is needed. So what happens next? After you have the tools, what will happen next? And does it change, like your space, the way the place you keep your tools, etc., everything, does it change if the order is not for 50 but 5,000 tables? So you have to just work on all these things and then draw your value stream. Okay, then finally I come to for sales and customer service. So here the questions the team will ask is, do we know who are the decision makers in each child care center or school, or which are the district schools? Then they will ask, do we have knowledge of their current inventory, or if they plan to build new schools or maybe the new portable classrooms in the coming years? And if customer needs 20,000 tables, then what? Who would do that? Can we do that? So these are the questions you should be able to answer when you are drawing your value stream map. So here one point which I need you to note down is that for each of these, whenever I talked about, there was one guiding question, and this guiding question is used when we create a value stream map, and this is, what happens next and who does it? So you have to continuously keep on asking these two questions. These will guide you when you create your value stream map. Now that we understand the two principles, that is the principle of value and the principle of value stream mapping, so we come to the third principle, that is creating flow. So after removing waste from the value stream, following action is to ensure, that is the action after value stream is to ensure that the flow of the remaining steps runs smoothly without interruptions or delays, so that once you have created the value stream, you have removed the waste and inefficiencies from the system which are very visible. So now what you want to do is that this principle states that you need to find out that there are no stoppages, no backlogs, no blockages or like long queue times in your process. So you need to create a very smooth flow, and some steps that ensure that value added activities flow smoothly would include breaking down the steps so that you understand your process in a better way, reconfiguring the production steps, that is you try to reconfigure the steps so that they can work even efficiently and work in a smarter way, leveling out the workload so that nothing is used inefficiently and nothing is overloaded, creating cross-functional departments that are capable of handling more than one responsibility, one duty or one job, and training employees to be multi-skilled and adaptive, right. So, this is quite simple. So, we use all these steps to maximize efficiencies by reducing waste. So, if I have to give you again, I am going to come back to my example that how we create flow to the same example we used in the second principle. So, the team which is responsible for making the tables for the classroom, so for creating flow, the lean manager might ask the team the following questions. For example, what tools do we need for each step, and do we need these tools every day for production to run smoothly? So, basically what they would ask, the lean manager would ask that what are the tools that are required every day, so that they should be present within the facility, and ones which are not required regularly should be just like the space should be created for other tools, right. So, basically what they try to do is reduce the waste of motion. And then he can also ask, can the traditional assembly line model be abandoned or replaced? So, what he asks is that additional assembly line model, like one person is cutting, one is fixing the glue and another one is fixing the nails. So, can we replace it with the production process with new way that reduces lag times between the steps? So, these are few questions which your lean managers can ask when they want to create flow. So, things you need to remember is that lean teams optimize flow in all aspects of business. It is not only about the production, they needed to do it in they needed to do it in marketing, for HR, for every department, right. And lean teams find areas where they need to reduce friction, that is what are the steps which are creating friction when we talk about giving value to the customer, where are the inefficiencies which are creating waste or which stall the flow of value to the customer. So, the guiding question for this principle is how can we think in a smart, streamlined way to reduce the steps needed to provide the most value to our customer. So, when you ask this question, so you will be able to create a better flow for your processes. Let us study the fourth principle, that is establishing pull. Now, inventory is considered as one of the biggest waste in any production system when we talk in terms of lean. So, now just go back and think about the second pillar of the TPS system, that was just in time, that is creating the right product in right amounts at right time and when it is required. So, this is all which is used, this concept is used in pull system. So, goal of pull based system is to limit inventory and work in progress items by ensuring that the requisite materials and information are available for smooth flow of work. So, basically by using the system which is the pull system, what we do is that we free up of our resources, our machinery, our manpower, so that we only focus on the products that are currently being demanded by the customer and not stocking up the finished products in the storage houses, because anyways whatever we are making today and it is not being sold, so when we stock it up its market value goes down. So, again it is a waste, right. So, using this this system which was considered as a revolution in the manufacturing system. So, we understand that we should free up our resources to build up, to create what is needed by the customer and when it is needed, fine. In other words, a pull based system allows for just in time delivery and manufacturing where products are created at the time that are needed and in just the quantities needed. So, simple thing that you create what is needed and in the quantity that is needed. For that, what you have to do is that you have to look at your value stream in a reverse manner, that is not from the supplier to the customer, but from the customer end to back to the supplier. So, pull based systems are always created from the needs of the end customers, that is their needs, people who are going to buy your products. So, for that now it is not something that will come on like by itself. You have to carry on studies, you have to study your market, your teams should be ready who study the market to find out that what products are needed and when. Maybe there are certain seasonal things which are required most at that particular of time. So, you have to carry lots of study, and we will be talking talking about lots of processes that go in when we talk about the pull system. Few we will discuss in this course, and which are little complicated. You will learn about those when you go to yellow belt, green belt and black belt. Okay. So, by following the value stream and working backwards, I have already told you, through the production system, that is your production system or your processes, you understand them in a backward manner. You can ensure that the products produced will be able to satisfy the needs of the customer when actually customer needs them. So, what exactly is done when we talk about the pull system? So, what do the lean teams do? So, lean teams consider the customer's perspective of final product, effectively looking at the operations of the business in reverse of the value stream map. So, we have already discussed that, and they find out when does customer actually need product in hand. So, they carry out studies, they find out that what is the actual demand of the customer and at what time the customer needs it, so that they are ready with the kind of raw material, with the time of machinery and the time they need to make the product. So, they just figure it out, fine. The idea of pull system revolutionized the manufacturing industry when Toyota brought it into the market. I have already told you that it is a wonderful system. You know why? Because first of all, you are not stocking up in unnecessary inventory, you are not making unnecessary finished products, your workforce and your materials are not overloaded with work because they are ready for what they need to create. So, this system is a wonderful system, it was a revolutionary system. And instead of investing in materials, production and then storage to be ready for the customer's order, what do lean teams do? Lean teams can use customers' true needs to direct a more sensible model which saves cost, time and resources. So, as I always use one guiding question for each of the principles, so the guiding question here is how lean teams, which question lean teams should have in mind when they want to establish the pull system. So, the guiding question is how can we transform our approach so that we have exactly the quantity the customer needs exactly when it is needed. So, you have to figure out ways, either you carry surveys, you go for interviews, questionnaires, you need to collect lot of data. It is not a very simple process, but then you will understand what to create and when to create. Coming to the last and the fifth principle, that is pursuit for perfection. So, basically what does it mean? What does this principle has to state? So, lean teams identify areas of improvement and implement meaningful change. That is, they try to find out what is meaningful in terms of the end customer and they try to implement those changes, seeking the most efficient processes. That is, they try to make processes which are efficient, which have less amount of waste or almost zero waste or defects, to bring the greatest value to the customer, that is flow of the value to the customer is very smooth. So, in practice these five principles are cyclical. By that I mean they work on the principle of continuous improvement. So, waste are identified through the achievement of the first four steps, that is first four principles help us to identify waste, and this is done by identifying value from the perspective of the customer, then mapping the value stream so that we can identify each and every process and see where the waste, the bottlenecks, the blockages are and we can remove that, and then creating a smooth flow where information, the processes flow smoothly, and then adapting a pull system, that means creating a product or service at the demand of the customer. And then the fifth system of pursuing perfection is the most important among all. Why? Because it makes lean thinking and continuous process improvement a part of the organizational culture. Because when you imbibe this concept of perfection, that whatever we need to do it in a perfect order, in a perfect way, we are able to deliver perfect services and products to our customer. So, that becomes an organizational culture. And every employee strives towards perfection while delivering products based on the customer needs. So, the goal of each and every employee of the organization is deliver maximum value to the customer, to deliver them the products in the right amount in the right way and at the cost they want, at the time they want it. The company should be a learning organization, or the company should be a learning organization and always find ways to get little better each and every day. So when we talk about lean, it's about continuous improvement. You seek ways to improve your processes each and every day, right? So as lean teams seek perfection, they constantly analyze each process, right? So they analyze each process so that they can increase the value, reduce cost and time, and reduce use of resources and space. So this is what they are trying to achieve. They focus on what adds value to the process and try to remove what is non-value added activity. Basically they do it by tightening the flow and deliver the value as the customer needs it. So the ultimate goal is not perfection, it's actually the pursuit of perfection, also known as continuous improvement. So you try to improve each and every day and do it continuously. So guiding question here is, when we talk about perfection, is that did we execute our plans and realize gains of efficiency? That did we actually just implement the plans we thought that would improve the processes, that would improve the value which we are giving to the customer? And realize gains of efficiency, that what kind of gains did we have after we just improved the processes and did what is required? Where else we can approach to bringing value to our customers? So what else we can do, what more changes we can bring into our processes so that we can provide better services, better products to our end customers. So at the end of all this, that now you have understood all the 5 principles. So you need to understand that all 5 principles guide to create a framework for an efficient and effective organization. So any organization which uses these 5 principles will have an effective and efficient working system. By practicing these 5 principles, an organization can remain competitive. Obviously, this market is all about competition, and if you apply these 5 principles, this means you are ahead of your competition, or you are trying to be competitive. Increase the value delivered to the customer. If you can do that, obviously your customer base will remain loyal, you will have a better market share, and decrease cost of doing business. So when you decrease the cost of doing business, either producing your products or services, then what happens is that you increase your business profitability. So this is where I am going to end this part, that is the 5 core principles, lean principles.